Hi.
My name's J.C. McCauley.
I'm Naisha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
All right, my friends, once again, it's time to get our talk on. It's Morning Talk with me, your host, J.C. McCauley, along with the champions of talk. Today is Talk Champion in studio. None other than Cleo Duke-Wright. Good morning, Miss Cleo. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing great today.
Doing great?
I'm doing great. I love it that it's not that cold out. It's not that, you can walk. I even took a walk last night because the night was really nice. So, yeah.
It was quite nice out yesterday.
Yes.
It had to be what, like 45 or something like that. In fact, you know what? I actually went out. I did a production yesterday. The client called me up. I was dead asleep.
Said, "Come on, Stan."
Said, "Is everything all right?" I said, "Yeah, it was." I said, "Where are you?" I said, "Do we have a shoot today?" Terrible.
Oh, it was scheduled.
Yes. Well, I thought it was 1/2, January the 2nd. 1/2. That was the time. From 11 to 1 or 2. Oh. And so I thought they changed the date from Thursday to next Monday. And so I looked at my calendar. I was off all week. And I was determined I wasn't going to go out the house. They're standing in the middle of Bushnell Park waiting for me.
Oh.
I felt bad.
Oh, that sounds like something I do, Stan.
It's the Aquarian in us.
Yes, that's what it is. The Aquarian. We always make it, but Yeah. I'm not going to call it CP time. I'm going to say we always make it, just not be right on time.
Right.
But if I was still taking the bus like I did when I first started here,
mm-hmm.
I'd be on time every day. Because I'd get up early and I have to get that bus.
Mm-hmm.
But now I got a car, so I can make it. and I never make it. Oh.
Well, but you had a good Christmas?
Yeah, I had a pretty good Christmas. I got sick. I've been a little under the weather lately.
Stomach bug or like cold?
It was a cold, so I took the COVID test and that was negative. So I just said it must be the flu.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll take another COVID test. And my friend said, "Well, maybe one is not enough." I said, "All right."
Well, keep taking the test until you show positive.
Then I'll be all right.
There you go. Right. So, but Kwanzaa, how do you celebrate Kwanzaa?
I know I was sick on Kwanzaa.
Well, you still have some time. Yeah, several days.
But I was supposed to do storytelling
yesterday.
26.
Okay, yeah. Now the library had a big water pipes broke or something, flooded out the line. Oh, great. Yeah, downtown, great damage with the library. So they moved the Kwanzaa celebration that was at the library yesterday to the north, to the Albany Avenue branch.
Albany Avenue branch.
Yeah.
That's kind
of small, but
yeah.
The other alternative would be to cancel it, because the library's closed all week.
Oh.
Yeah, they got the Serve Pro people down there. They should do a whole commercial, but they have the Serve Pro down there, vacuuming up the water and restoration.
Destroy some books.
Destroy a lot of computer stuff, from what I understand.
Oh.
At least that's what was in the paper. But so happy Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Three Kings Day, Happy New Year's.
Oh wow!
And that should cover it. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays covers it.
Yeah, happy holidays. So today, of course, though, is Friday. We kind of chill back Friday. We kind of take things out of the realm of controversy and try and do something on a positive note on Fridays. So today we have a special guest in studio. As we go into 2023, we're going to have a lot more guests here in the studio. And today we're going to talk a little bit about policing. More specifically about recruiting police officers here in the greatest city on earth, Hartford, Connecticut, New England's rising star. Hartford has it. I personally like New England's rising star. But joining us is my good friend, Sergeant Steve Austin.
Good morning, Stan.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm fantastic. It's been just like Cleo said. The weather outside is beautiful. It's a beautiful morning.
Beautiful morning. It's 60. I think it was like 45 degrees or something like that yesterday. It was not, and then in the sun, it wasn't so bad.
Well, I was amazed because my partner and I, we were talking. It's like, Jesus, it's like we have to qualify. I was like, today would be a perfect day to go out and qualify. But unfortunately, I didn't have any ranges yesterday. But just even last night, it was still really warm out, and I was kind of amazed that here in late December, we're still having this kind of weather, considering that you see what's happening in Buffalo. And I looked at a picture on the internet, these houses that are on Lake Erie, and they're like iced over, like the whole village. I was like, man,
that was amazing. I'm looking at this. My wife and I were watching the news. It looked like a town from a train tabletop.
Yes,
but the whole, it's like, it was kind of like the lakeside, but it blew up over top of the house. But it's like if your door was on that side of the house, you ain't getting out. You're like it looked like someone came and threw cement, like blew cement up against it. They were like they're covered with ice, like foot thick ice,
like, 3 to 4 inches thick.
Just unbelievable.
Oh my God, I didn't see that.
Yeah,
I didn't see that.
It's pretty, but I guess it ain't pretty if you're sitting inside the house.
No, it sure isn't.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about becoming a police officer in Hartford, Connecticut. To me, community is self-sustaining, self-educating, and self-policing. And there's always a big push within our community to be a community, which means you have to police your community. But all too often, a lot of young African Americans, a lot of people of color, black folk, BIPOC, whatever the case is, don't want to do the job of policing, which is like a number, to me, it's like in the top 10 or top 3 responsibilities that you have as a community is to provide for your own policing.
Exactly. I mean, when you talk about the responsibility of men and women to the safety and the well-being of their own community, I mean, we look at a lot of different things. We should look at our elderly for our knowledge and our wisdom. Mm-hmm. We should look at our faith leaders for our moral compass. Mm-hmm. And we should look at our young adults and our mothers and fathers for our leadership and the well-being of our children. That responsibility is a very serious thing, and I think when you take that on, you're able to give something back, and giving something back to your community means that you're going to leave it better than how you found it. And law enforcement, for use of a better term, it always had a negative connotation in our community because historically here in the city of Hartford, and I would say pretty much any area where the majority of the population was black or Hispanic, or what is the correct word, BIPOC, you will find that it was just the opposite. The police were a little heavy-handed with us, or we look at how things have gone in the criminal justice system. We just didn't fare really well there. However, as we move forward and we try to progress and start learning how the system works and play allegedly by the rules, we have to start taking control, and that's our finances, and so that would be the economics of our community, the education, which means our children are able to compete in the future, today and in the future, and our governing. So we making the laws
Mm-hmm.
that govern our community, laws that work for us.
Mm-hmm.
We create the community standards. And once we have those community standards, well, then you have us, law enforcement, to help enforce those community standards that we, the people of that community, have put forth. And when I say not necessarily enforce, but quality of life, we're there to serve. So if a person has a problem, we want to be there to help them find. If we don't have the solution, help them find the solution to their problem. It shouldn't be seen as a oppressive or occupying entity. And when that entity looks like and reflects our community, it will never be an occupying or oppressive entity. So we push very strongly to hire, city residents. I mean, and it doesn't really matter what city you come from. If you're in that city and you're a tax-paying individual, which, is part of your civic duty, you should want to represent your community in every facet, whether it be public safety or your Department of Public Works or your economics, or your fiscal department or your Treasury department. There's so many different areas where the city is represented by the people who actually live here. And it benefits us all, because when we're all working and we all have the best intentions for our city, our communities thrive. It's when we have others who don't have best intentions and only want to take advantage of what the riches that are there and plunder it, is when we have issues. So I think becoming an officer, and I talk to a lot of young men and women about this, is that if not you, then him. If not you, then who? I mean, we can continue with the status quo. How does that help us?
Right.
Do you want to help yourself? And I'm talking generational help, because this is what this job offers. It offers an opportunity for a family or an individual to change their life circumstances, to change their condition, to change the direction of their family and the next generation and the generation after that.
The opportunities that go along with the job, you've got health care, you got great salary, you have respect, opportunities to help. Most of the people that I know that are in policing want to help folk. I mean, that the primary driver is helping people.
And it is. That should be the primary driver. And when you're working in a community, like I said, I went to kindergarten, middle school, high school, even started community college here. So the thing is, you're working in an area where you've been all your life. You've shopped in the stores. You've eaten in the restaurants. You've played in the parks. You've attended concerts. You've taken advantage of the cultural things that we have in terms of the museums. Our Yargo Stadium. I remember when the Hartford Civic Center was first built. But being able to see and utilize all these great things that are in our city, and then we have to take care of them, just like you take care of your home. If you take care of your home, then you should want to take care of your street. And if you want to take care of your street, then you want to take care of your community. And if you want to take care of your community, then you want to take care of your city. And make your city, we always say, like in here in Hartford, the New England's rising star. I think we are a star. We're already there. We just need to polish it off a little bit.
Absolutely.
And make sure that everyone else knows that all the great things that are here in our city, including its people, which is the main component, we're here for you. And this job, this opportunity is here because it's going to allow individuals, and I keep harping back on it because I want to talk about the economic value of what becoming a Hartford police officer is. And I can speak from a personal standpoint, because what it has done for me, it has allowed me to buy a home. It's allowed me to put my children through school, and I mean all the way from elementary school right on through college. One left, thank goodness. I'm working towards retirement, and I'll have a pension, and I'm working towards making sure that even when I transition out of this job, that I'll still be a part of this community in some way or another. And I just find myself loving the fact that what I did in my 25 years here in the police department I'll be able to use those skills and transfer them into some other endeavor where I can make another impact in the city. And I think you talk about respect because that's what it comes from. I often talk to citizens and they, a lot of them say, well, we don't like police, but we like you. I said, so I got to thinking, why do you like me so much? I said, well, you understand. And so that made me scratch my head a little bit. I said, well, if I understand, why can't you understand? I'm not going to be here forever. I need someone else to come in and take my place. Are you willing to stand up? Are you willing to step up? Because that's what we need. My father often talked about the difference between a hero and a coward. And it basically, they're the same individual. Just one decides to do something because they're both scared. They're both scared. But a hero's going to do something. All right? That's it. Be a hero for your community.
I like that. The hero acts.
Yeah.
Does something.
He does something.
Well, that's a nice story. That's a nice story. And I can remember the day where I thought that was, where we loved the police and we gave them cards on Valentine's Day and they were very helpful to us, but that's not the story today. And before we get to what you're talking about, you got to clean up something else. You got to clean up the thought about police, the thought about each other. We need to get each other together. We need to have a different thought about the police. And they're still in our mind. How come when anybody gets shot by the police, it's always a white cop that shot you, the white police officer that shot him, a black person. If they were a black person, a black police officer, how do they get away with not ever shooting anybody like that? What do you do before we get to because before, you got to have people to listen and to trust before we get to where you're at. And I think we're so far away from that. And just to like each other, just to treat each other decently is this one doesn't like that one because we all black, but we don't all come from the same place, and we don't all come from the same culture, and we don't all trust, and that causes such tension between us, and then there's the police who's scared too, and they come into a community, and some of them are mentally not together with this neighborhood. With the neighborhood that they're serving. They're not, they're on the defensive rather than coming in to help. They may want to help, but they don't want to get hurt either. So a lot of times they come in defensively. And how do you get past, first of all, being a family, being a neighborhood? Having most of those people around there are neighbors, but how do we let such a small amount of people destroy our neighborhoods, to do anything they want to do, and we sit there and let them do that when we can go out there and say something every single day, when the homeowners and the storekeepers could say, you can't do this right here. So it starts way before the police.
Yes, I agree.
It's way before the police, because our attitudes have to change. Our attitudes have to change in our communities and with each other. Now, what if our neighborhoods were together and we told Joey or Sally, not today, go home, or when they start acting up outside, you're the adult. We're the adults. We're the grown-ups. We don't let children tell us what to do, because we're the adults, right? So you have to say something, even if they don't listen. still have to say something. You still, I say something all the time. They may laugh at me, but they also make sure I'm all right when I go up to my apartment. They make sure I'm all right. I was going to the store the other day, and a person who's always standing outside giving havoc says, "Ma, where you going? Let me walk you to the store." I said, "No, I'll walk myself to the store because it was getting kind of late. I'll be here when you get back. I'm gonna make sure you get back." So it happens. It happens, but what made it happen? What made that little thing happen? You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So I don't know. I just think before you get there, you have to do something else to help the neighborhoods, us, because our parents were not like this. Our grandparents were not like this. Hartford was not like this. Neighbors helped each other. My neighbor scolded me, and God help me if you told my parents, So they helped me. I was never afraid in a neighborhood. I was never afraid in Hartford. I'm not afraid now, which might be to my detriment. But I went where I wanted to go. People were good to me. And if someone bothered somebody always came and said, no. So I think that has to happen first before they listen to higher education, because they're going to get that at home. If they don't get it at home, it's going to be hard to get. Right. Higher education. Don't you want a better paycheck? Don't you want a better pay and retirement? Man, I can get a better retirement right here. I make, how much money I make a day? You know how much I got? Blah, 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 blah. With their foolish talk. So how do you get past that? How do you we had wonderful officers in the Blue Hills area when I first came there, and they were they knew the community. All of a sudden, all of them disappeared. All of them did. They're not there. They're not there anymore.
Well, don't you think that I hear you're saying, how do we get back there? And yes. I think I don't think it's one or the other or first. I think it happens all at once, and it reflects on what Sergeant Austin is saying, that we need more people to be heroes, not just police officers, but the whole community has to start becoming heroes. They have to move from being afraid to doing, whether it's the clergy, whether it's the neighbors,
right?
But the whole community has to change. I think that starts with people rising to the occasion. And so if the police officers whose primary responsibility and role it is to enforce the rules or to help the community understand where the boundaries are, you're over the boundary, you can't do this, they are community leaders. Your teachers are community leaders. You're what you guys, as Steve said, the moral compass with your clergy. And then you have your police officers. They're an integral part of the community. I think they're more important in the community than people realize. And if you don't see officers in the community that reflect the community, then there's a disconnect. And I think you hinted at that. So if we don't have people who are willing to become police officers, it's almost like people not wanting to run for elective office or serve on jury duty. These things sound silly, but they're very, very important because they're the fabric of the community. And so if the community is self-policing, the community has has to be at the head of that. That someone has to call the
Yes,
police.
the community
you
has
know,
to be the
who do
head
you
of that.
call
That's
when
right.
someone starts acting up? Even if the people are, I've seen folk doing wrong, straight out wrong, and they call the police. I mean, who? There's no one else authorized, deputized, sanctioned to come and stop, arrest. But before that, just to even has the authority to talk to you and say, hey, stop. And it is a recognized authority. And that's the police. And so we need more officers from the community.
Are you saying that if there is a problem in the community that, and I'm standing there looking at it and other people are standing there looking at it, that, and I know who's doing this stuff, I mean, I know the people who are in this situation, that I have to wait for the police to do something?
No, you not necessarily have to wait for the police, but if no one's listening to you and say, lady, go mind your business, and things start getting out of hand, who do you call? You don't call more people.
No.
You call
That's correct.
the police.
Right. If they're not listening to me and they're
Right.
still doing what they're doing, then I would call the police.
All right.
Right.
Well, we will explore more of this when we come back. Talking about policing, but more specifically, you becoming a police officer here in Hartford. Our special guest this morning is Sergeant Steve Austin. We're talking about recruiting for the Hartford Police Department. Stick and stay, don't go anywhere. We will be, my friends, we will be right back.
Independent thinkers are Puerto Rican, Mexican, Peruvian, Indian, Bosnian, Italian, Irish, Jamaican, African American, European, straight, gay, Nigerian, transgender, Christian, Jewish, Muslim, short, tall, skinny, rich, poor, happy, sad. Some of us hold a PhD and others a GED. And though we may be Democrats, Republicans, or members of the Working Families Party, we all have escaped the plantation of party politics and become independent thinkers because we as individuals are more than a party. You see, independent thinkers come from all walks of life. And the one thing we all have in common is that we love, live, laugh, and learn in the city of Hartford. We are the constituents, and the government of Hartford belongs to us. My name is J. Stan McCauley. I'm an independent thinker, and I approve this message because it's time to stop towing the party line and vote for a candidate you can trust. You too can escape the plantation of party politics if you have the courage to free your political mind.
Hi, so my name is Nelky Maldonado,
My name is Ramon L. Arroyo.
and we know that Hartford Parent University provides good services and resources to parents in our communities, which are greatly needed because a lot of times our parents, they don't know where to go, how to get information, and being part of this program is essential to them in being successful in their children's education.
And I think that parents should get involved in their kids' education because it's very important. Education is, I always believe, is a success in life. If you got a good education, you can be very successful.
So we encourage our parents to please come join the program, ask lots of questions, and I'm telling you, you won't be disappointed.
Hi,
My name's J.C. McCauley.
I'm Naisha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
All right, my friends, welcome back. It's More Than Talk with me, your host, J.C. McCauley, along with the champions of talk. This morning we have in studio with us Cleo Duke-Wright and, of course, our special guest, Sergeant Steve Austin. And so we'll continue our conversation talking about the need for police. You know, I have had people say, you know, we don't need more police officers. I think, in my mind, we don't need more bad officers. And I am of the opinion, I've said this on the program many times, the majority of the police officers across the country are good, and absolutely the majority of police officers in Hartford are good. We don't have the kind of problems in Hartford that we have in other places around the country. And of course, you know, the police are no different than any other group. You know, you got clergy got problems.
Oh yeah.
Doctors got problems. Everybody got problems. So, you know, folk like to point out the problems in someone else's yard when their own yard needs to take care of. But in terms of the need for police, there's an absolute positive need for police. And, you know, I've tried to think of different ways that we can get more young black and brown people from the city of Hartford to become police officers. It's just a matter of making the decision that this is what you want to do. And I think it's an honorable job. It's as honorable as being a firefighter or any other job where you are serving your community. With city council people or folks who are elected to serve on the Board of Education. It's your city. It's your community. And if you're not willing to serve, then who's gonna fill that gap?
Well, Stan, that's exactly right. You know, I was listening to Cleo. You touched on many issues, and I said, Jesus, where did I begin on this? I can just just to start moving down them. But you know, service is the thing. You know, it's not going to be an issue where you say, hey, this one particular occupation is going to be the difference maker in our community. It's not. It's going to be a multiple attack, or for a better word, just our approach to how we continue to solve some of the problems that we find very challenging in our community. Mm-hmm. You know, we know education is a huge issue. I can tell you that. You know, poverty, healthcare, mental health. Mm-hmm. These things all work into a fabric, and the populations that have been mostly underserved in those areas have been black and brown communities. And it's almost like it's kind of jokingly, the rap record, we started from the bottom. Well, we have started from the proverbial bottom. We were underwater, and some of us are still underwater. So, you know, there's many different things that we need to look at to move or advance our situation here in this community, in this state, and in this country. Law enforcement, yes, it's had a checkered past. But just like everything, politics, our businesses, I mean, we've had to put laws in for affirmative action because businesses didn't hire. We've had to work and make sure that our county lines were in the right place, so the people who voted in those communities were being represented by the people they're voting for. Right. So they weren't getting gerrymandered out, and we looked at redlining in terms of our housing, you know, where you could or you couldn't buy a house. So I mean, there's so many different issues that we can touch on that create the situation that we're currently in. And yes, and law enforcement was part of that checkered history as well. But as we start checking the boxes of how we go about finding these solutions, that has to be looked at. The whole notion of defunding the police, I mean, I hear it, and most of the time, to be honest, I don't really hear it from black people. I hear it from a lot of educated suburban individuals who come into these communities with so-called quote-unquote solutions because they read it. It was their, you know, dissertation for their master's degree. I'm like, my life is not a theory.
Right.
You know, it's not quite in the book. So, because as you and I both know, and I think, Ms. Cleo, you can speak to it as well, that our history is not really often reflected in your dissertation or in the books that you've been reading.
Right.
And we've now been challenged about that if we want to bring that history forward. So you see the huge pushback against that, because then that sheds a light on a whole nother problem. But I think that I advocate for law enforcement because what it's done for me, you know, and I can speak as an individual who's been on both sides. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm still a black man, and I have to live in America, and I live in this country. And this is the best country in the world. I've been around the world, and I've seen some conditions. You know, we got a lot of flaws. I do think that you can make it here. Is it going to be challenging? Yes. Are you going to have a lot of issues? Yes. Are those things conspiring to keep you in a certain place? Yes. However, and you spoke about this, pulling together as a community and working with all the facets. I mean, because it has to be something that we're all doing together collectively. We won't always agree. You know, we can respectfully agree to disagree on a lot of different issues. But like my dad said, in terms, I use our family because that's the thing that I have, and this is what I wish more people. When you have that family foundation, but one of the things that this system has done is help destroy our families through no fault of our own. But you can see it. But my family, thank God, I had a mother and father in the house, and it helped me with the foundations. It gave me, even though we were all prodigal, my brothers and I, we were running around doing our things, but we had that foundation, and it kind of centered us and brought us back when it was time to come back. And the thing was, we can disagree inside this house, but when we step out that door, we are the Austins. And that is what I'm saying to this community, the city of Hartford. We may disagree. We have neighborhoods. Wow, our neighborhood needs this. Well, we want that, and we want this. But at the end of the day, when people look at this city, they're not looking at that neighborhood or this thing and say, Hartford has an issue. Let's bind together and find our common cause where we can all celebrate. What's the common denominator that's going to rise, lift that tide that rise? You know, I spoke about that at the Urban League. You know, that rising tide. We need to find that common denominator, and the people who push for the funding, they don't have anything to lose, because see, you know, it's one thing to come into a community, put all these things out there, and fill people's heads with all this stuff. And then when it doesn't work out, they can go back to another life. See, we
That's
can't.
true.
People come and go. They come in Hartford. They, like I said, they take all the riches out and take off. But at the end of the day, we're still here. And what are we left with? So when I say I'm here really about recruiting, because I want people to understand, it's not that I want you to say, hey, I want you to be just a police officer, but I want you to have some responsibility. And whatever it is you choose to do, law enforcement, in your own neighborhood, what you working there is honorable. It's honorable. It will take care of you and your family. As you have your children, they're educated. They can use the money that you made, the resources that you brought into that family, and take it into another direction in terms of building businesses, starting banks, starting credit unions, starting law firms, starting accounting houses. This is how business is done. We have always been told that we must buy, quote unquote, black. Well, we have to have the black products first to buy. You know, and everyone sells to us, and we buy from everyone, but no one buys from us. So, you know, these are things that go into the fabric. And now, when we had these opportunities, unfortunately, you know, we've seen it, and you talked about the mentality about, well, you know, why don't we get along? Stop looking at my yard and da da da. That is a symptom of a much bigger problem that started. You know, we've had, you know, the whole 400 years. I mean, you know, realistically, I mean, you think about the last 25, 30 years is really only where we're starting to see some of these so-called advancements in terms of our actual opportunities. I look at South Africa, and people always say, well, they're a free country now. They're no longer suffering from apartheid. But you can't take a country, take everything out of it, all the money, all the resources and everything, and then leave all the education, all the brain trust, and just leave and just say, hey, okay, now you guys figure it out. And not think they're gonna not have and feel problems. You know.
You can't make it because you're not as intelligent as we are.
Well,
not
those
that
are the
you,
things.
not that you're taking
Well,
everything
listen,
from us.
I always say,
I'm just saying that just sort of when you said take everything out and just leave you and say, pull yourself up by your bootstraps or something like that.
Yes.
After you've taken everything.
It's incredible. It just won't happen. So I mean, I don't have all the answers. I'm using law enforcement as a career opportunity for individuals who are willing and who want to come and serve. It's a path to respectability, economic independence, a chance to get into the housing market. And we've known throughout the history of this country that real estate has always been a great tool to advance wealth in this country. The majority of the land and property is owned by less than 3% of the individuals in the entire United States. They own the majority of it. So when we look at those numbers, it's incredible that more people wouldn't want to avail themselves to that. And I said, we always talk about the American dream, get your house, get your car, get your kids in a nice school. Well, I think the school should be where you live. I never really believed in. My parents were really funny about that. I still agree. I don't think you have to get on a bus and go 20 miles outside of your school district and sit next to some other children just to learn.
Right.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't no more than my skin is going to rub off on you. I don't think you're. I understand the materials may be better and the environment may be cleaner, but at the end of the day, reading is reading.
Right.
Math is math. 1 + 1 is 2 everywhere in the world. And I always tell mathematics is the common denominator. I don't care where you're at in the world. That's the one common denominator. If you know mathematics, you will succeed in this world, because that is not something, we can change words because that's what lawyers do. Lawyers are trained. That's what, if you ever seen, and I'm sure it's then you've been up to the legislature, you look at a law. There's so many clauses and subclauses and things that the average person could not even decipher, because I don't think half those guys know. But the bottom line is these laws and these things they put in effect are designed to fool the average person, so that you have to hire an advocate to read it for you. And what are lawyers but advocates? So they have a position in this world, in this community. We have a position for us. We have a position for teachers. We have a position for our medical professionals. We have a position for our accountants and our tradespeople. We need great tradespeople. We need electricians. We need plumbers. We need masons, carpenters. These are things that are honorable trades and have always done well. People who have used them to move into that next economic level of prosperity. And my job is just another avenue that you can possibly go to. I would love to see more people, because like I said, before I get out of here and retire, I want to make sure that the mantle is being passed along, and understanding that, because if I leave and no one comes and takes my place, we're going to have situations again where we're not represented, and that is worth. Representation matters.
Absolutely.
It absolutely matters.
Absolutely.
So when you don't have that, when I'm walking down Albany Avenue in my full uniform, and I see young men and women, I see old elderly people, I see friends of my parents, say, "Oh, hi," they could call me Little Stevie then, but "Hey Steve, how you doing, Sergeant?" And the kids coming up to me, they talking. They're not fearful. They're not fearful. They're not, and that's when the representation kicks in. I remember a time, and I don't want to keep harping back because we really can't live in the past, but there was a time when a lot of our teachers, and I think, we look at some of the educational bills, and I see how they're written, and I think that's what's being lost. And in the minutia, we're not really looking at the small print, because when we talk about things that are coming into, people always, I want to know who the mayor is. I want to look. They look at the big ticket issues, but I would say you need to know who's on that land commission. You need to know who's on the town committees. You need to know who's on the planning and accreditation, because at the end of the day, you want to know what is and what's not allowed. I mean, hey, I moved here. Oh, by the way, they're gonna build the whole industrial complex right in your backyard. Oh, I didn't know that.
Right.
So my house value is gonna go way down. Oh, they're gonna allow 8 package stores or liquor stores, one on that corner, one on that corner, one on that corner. You know, so these things matter, but these are the things that we as a community have not really focused on because they're mundane and they're not important enough until it's too late. And then we're told this is happening. And I love protests. I see people protest, and I think that's one of the best things about this country. We have the right to protest. But once the protest is done,
right,
you know, and and it's
What
been
happens?
what happens,
What
and we're
happens?
good at marching and getting all fired up. And you touched on something. You said officer involved shootings. You know, well, when we talk about officers, and you ask me why were most of them white and usually a black person, or well, you know, historically we've had things like that because the officers who tend to work in these communities didn't look like the community. So it even goes back to the traffic stops, and you know, and to me it's kind of stupid because the FBI wants you to keep there. They're going to make sure there's no racial profiling. Well, you got a community that's like 80% black, and you got a police force that's 80% white. Well,
it's a little difficult not to.
It's a little difficult to exactly. It's like we don't ask that same question of our teachers. I grew up, and I can tell you a lot of my teachers were white. You know, so their teaching is from a perspective, and the fact that I was a young black boy, and I can see it now when I, as an adult, as a child, you don't recognize it, but you can see how they're emphasizing certain things that would make my culture seem, well, I want to be a rocket scientist. I want to work for NASA. Well, that's great. I think that's a great dream, but let's be more realistic. And I think they want to guide, because I notice in our school system they always have these culinary art programs and things of that nature. And I'm like, well, you know, I mean, can we get out of the kitchen? Not that there's anything wrong with being a chef.
Right.
There's nothing wrong. That's a great honorable career as well. But I mean, to start putting those ideals in the minds of first, second, third, and fourth graders, and putting these quote unquote trade or magnet programs in our neighborhoods exclusively, where and I know because I had the fortunate to have this job. I was able to send my child and my son and daughter. They went to very, very nice schools, and I saw what they were teaching there and what the expectations were. So I think as we raise those expectations and we take away the veil of ignorance, you will see where we are not only is law enforcement needed, we absolutely have to be here, not so much to keep us in check, but to keep others from taking advantage of us. You know, because that's a thing. When we're here, we can't be taken advantage of because we have everything in place, whether it be our civic organizations, whether it be our local political leaders, our clergy and our faith leaders, and all our businesses. I can look around and say, hey, that's Mr. Johnson. He owns a real estate company. That's Mr. Smith. He has an auto dealership. That's Mr. Austin. He has several stores. He has a food store. He has a dry cleaner, restaurants, things that are going to make our community thrive. And we're all working towards that one economic goal, not necessarily to push anybody out. We want you to come into our community. We want you to come here and eat and do all the things. You talked about how you sometimes walk down to the store and you sometimes people say, oh, you shouldn't do that. But why shouldn't you? I can remember a time when I was younger and there were Franklin Avenue, and I'm going to use that as an example. You would see, because this is an old world thing, and I would see a lot of the, and I didn't understand it because I was like only about 15 or 16, and I had a young Italian friend that I met, and he said, oh no, those are widows. When their husbands die, they tend to mourn, and they wear the black dresses, and they walk around, and they're walking around 6, 7, 8 o'clock in the evening. Not a problem. Whereas in our community, we have this notion that we shouldn't be able to do that, but our elderly are not being revered and they're being taken advantage of, and we don't want to have that because things have happened where our children have become the adults, and the adults have reverted and not taking the responsibility of telling children, we know better. I know not to touch a hot stove because you will get burned. Children may not know that lesson. That's where, as an elder, I'm like, hey, don't touch that because you will get burned. If you do touch it, sometimes we got to find out for ourselves. But the thing is, we know. through experience, through life experience. And we need to be able to give that back. And now my life experience has been for me to see on this job. I can see all the problems, yes. But I also see, I'm very optimistic. I see all the great things that we can become. Mm-hmm. And I think that is the key. And I want to keep pushing that narrative because, Stan, when you come into this profession, and by the way, you can call me at 860-757-4233. 4338, that's my extension. We're hiring into January 10th. That's when the application closes. I want to put that little plug in again. Come on down. We're looking for men and women, and there's no age cap. I say men and women. I kept saying young men and women, but no, there's no age cap. If you're 21 and older, you have a valid driver's license, you're an American citizen, you have a high school diploma or GED, no felonies on your record, you can be a Hartford police officer. You can serve not just your community, but this entire city. If you went to school at Hartford High, if you went to school at Weaver High, if you went to school at Buckley, if you went to, well, I was going to say South Catholic, but that's no longer. Well, we have a whole lot of different magnet schools now. I can't really keep up with all the high schools we have in the city.
Excuse me.
Yes.
I think, was there at one time to be a police officer, you had to have a good credit rating?
Well, once again, we talk about things that was used to, it's like redlining. If you look at things that, and some of the different, what do they used to call them? Voting rules that they put in place. So if your father didn't vote in 2 consecutive elections, you couldn't register to vote. All kind of little things to kind of trip certain people.
Yeah, hurdles and stumbling
obstacles.
Blocks to
So,
make sure you.
I mean, they're still there. I mean, they just call them different things, And a credit rating, yes, that was one of the things that they did have in place. However, moving on with the times and getting more progressive, we here at the Hartford Police Department, and myself in particular, we have a financial literacy course that we offer to prospective candidates. We bring in people from the Urban League. We brought in people from our credit union and different financial institutions who come in and actually teach a course on financial literacy so that people who have challenges with their credit can start getting their house in order. Not only will it help them, because this is America and everything runs on credit, so we always knew that would be a challenge. So we offer that now. We recognize that was an issue, and we put that out there. We also recognize that a lot of people couldn't pass the physical assessment test. So we took it upon ourselves, myself and Officer Marquez, who's not here. He and I, we are the guys that go out and every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at 6 p.m., either at Hartford High, Weaver, or Buckley. Well, Buckley's under construction now, but we offer physical agility training, which is quite simply just that. We work with individuals to help you and put you in the best possible position to pass that physical assessment test. And the fire department requires one, and every law enforcement officer in the state of Connecticut has passed this physical assessment. I don't care how big they look now, but at one point
time,
they did pass that physical assessment test, and that's a state standard. And I had this conversation. I go back and forth too because I got an issue with this, and I think we as people, we got to be very careful, and it's a slippery slope, and that's lowering expectations. We got to be very careful with that. I heard say, well, why do we got to have this? Why I got to? Can't we get a break? I said, no, you don't need a break. You just need to put the effort in because I know you can do it. The thing is, when if you want to cause real divisions, start giving people different advantages. That well, you get 5 points and he gets none. Listen, I think the challenge is, and my father always says, the expectations are for you to be great. If you set it for mediocrity, you will be mediocre. Because life is not fair. It's just not equal. There are tall people, there are short people. There are heavy people and there are thin people. So some people are a little brighter at academics, and some people are more adept with their hands. It is what it is. God has made us in so many different ways. You find your skill set. Maybe it's a motivational speaker. Maybe it's teaching someone to hammer and nail, be a carpenter, can build. I can't build anything, but I can pay to get it built. So the thing is, we have to get in where we fit in, and I don't want the carpenter because he felt like, well, he should have been given more hammer and nails than somebody else, and my house is lopsided, it's going to collapse. I want the very best carpenter. I want the very best police officer. I want the very best doctor. I want so wherever you at, I want the best of whatever your profession or trade is. And if you're a teacher, or if you're a parent, I want you to be the best parent. You know, having children doesn't make you a parent. You know, and that's where we've kind of lost, and the system has allowed, in particularly in our community, for children to kind of go off and say, hey, well, I don't like you anymore, Dad. I'm like, well, you ain't supposed to like me like that, because I have to be your father, you know. And then sometimes I'm gonna say no. You may not understand, and you're like, well, I want a reason. I'm like, well, you're 10. I'm not giving you a reason. I don't have to. I have life experience. I know the end result of your actions if you continue the same way. And although, because like I said, I was 17, 18, my father and we butted heads because, you know, you get a certain age, I want to use the car, and I can't use the car, and I want to go here, and he's like, well, you can't use the car, and I got something to do. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm infuriated. I had a date. I promised everybody. You don't know anything. You don't know anything, Dad. Well, it came to find out he knew a lot more than I did. And so these are the lessons that, you know, we want to give to our community. Mm-hmm. And like I said, as I'm a police officer, but I'm having these conversations, life conversations, with individuals as we talk on the street, as I'm meeting them in community meetings, as I'm meeting them wherever I go. I go every year, and I either work it or I'm there at the Hartford Jazz Festival. And I go there not so much for the jazz, but because now it's like a reunion for all of Hartford. Yeah. Everybody's there. I'm like, oh, I haven't seen you in a year. Oh, high school friends, relatives, and everybody just comes back, and I love it. And I said, why can't we have more of these kind of things? We are self-deprecating sometimes, and I want to get away from that. I want to see us be able to enjoy those kind of events. I want to see us pass along that information to not just our youth and our community, but accept and honor and respect and revere the information, the wisdom that can be passed down to us from someone who's older than me. I still have friends and family members who are 10, 12, 15, 20 years older than me. I still see parents, friends of my father and mother who still are talking to me. Oh, I remember when you was a little boy and da-da-da-da. And to me, I still call them Mr. and Mrs. It's just ingrained in who I am. I've never called an adult, hey, John. My father would have looked at me like I was crazy. You know? So these are the things that we've gotten away from. And it is a respect thing, but you have to earn the respect as an adult and as a child who you see straying. Hey, young man, you're right. Oh, listen, I didn't want nobody to tell my parents I was acting up. I was like, no, that wasn't me. And even my father, he was a funny guy. He said, don't make me go down the street and ask that lady. And no, Dad, don't
find
do that.
Out that you wasn't.
I did do it. If it's gonna happen, let's happen in the house. I don't want it to happen out in the street, because those were the kind of parents that we had, and I think we have gotten away from that, and this, legislation has allowed that to happen.
We're gonna take a short break.
Okay.
Then when we come back, we're gonna go to the website, show you how you can become a police officer here in Hartford, Connecticut. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Stick and stay.
Stick and stay.
Hi,
My name's J.C. McCauley.
I'm Naisha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
All right, my friends, welcome back. Morning Talk, J. Stan McCauley, along with the champions of talk. This morning's talk champion, Cleo Duke-Wright. We have special guests, Sergeant Steve Austin from the Hartford Police Department. He's one of the recruiters, and he's doing recruiting. And I know there's plenty of you all out there who would make great police officers. You just gotta come on down and take advantage of the opportunity. And so I want to look at the website. This is the website on the City of Hartford's website for the police department. And you can go to the website and you can, I was looking at this last night because I knew Brother Steve was going to be here. And all the information you need is right on this website. And then, of course, you can always give Sergeant Austin a call. But there's, if you go to the website, you can see an overview, salary and benefits. This is not bad, $1,175 to $1,624 a week. $61,000 to $84,000 a year. Paid vacations, health, dental, and vision plan. Education incentives. And of course, there's retirement. Basic requirements. You got to be 21 years old at the time of the application. Citizenship. United States proof of citizenship must be submitted with your application. Education must possess a high school diploma or from a accredited high school or GED, state approved program. Any driver's license. Let's see what else was on here. Physical exam or physical ability testing. You talked about that. Yes. Yeah. There we go. Open up your mics. I'm sorry about that. A physical ability testing. I was watching a really interesting movie last night. An officer was chasing after somebody. He finally ran out of breath. And so, but you have to be physically fit. You have to run. You have to. It's.
Yeah,
It's just like being on a. You can't if you can't keep up with the person you're chasing. You can't just like.
I saw a police officer chasing this young boy one time. He was very much overweight. Yes. And it was a funny thing to see.
Mm-hmm.
So when you were saying they don't have to stay that way.
Well, there's it's for me it's a lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
I got to be honest. I just turned 60 years old in November, and we have a physical assessment test. The state of Connecticut calls it a CHIP test. You can go on the CHIP site and you can see what all the physical requirements are. They're based upon your age and your gender. So if you're a male, 21 to 29, you have certain standards. If you're, 30 to 39, and then 40 to 49, and 50 and above. So there's a sliding scale based upon those things. Listen, I chose to stay physically fit, man. But I've always been active, so that's just me. But it's a type of career that it behooves you to stay in shape. It's not required, but everyone's lifestyle is different. The things that I like to think about that you can always do while you're here, you can always keep getting better. Mm-hmm. In other words, you can improve your education. I noticed you mentioned the educational incentives; those are there, and we have, if you want to continue your education after high school, getting your associate's degree and your bachelor's degree and your master's degree or even your PhD, there's financial incentives to do that. So with our collective bargaining agreement, I know you put the salary up right there. We just, our collective bargaining union has just reached an agreement with the city, and we're going to be getting raises January 1st, July 1st. They're long overdue, but we're very competitive with our suburban counterparts now. Mm-hmm. And like I said, you look at that salary of $84,000. That's basically $85,000 with a high school diploma. Mm-hmm. That being your base salary, if you were just to work the almost required mandatory special events in 1 year, such as I say these are the special events that they require a lot of police support. That's like our St. Patrick's Day Parade, our West Indian Day Festival and Parade, our Puerto Rican Day Festival and Parade, and our Hartford Marathon. These are 4 major events that happen every year in the city of Hartford. And if you only work just those 4, you're going to be over $100K for the year, literally over $100,000 for the year. So there are not many opportunities with just a high school diploma. I beg to look around anywhere in the state. I know guys with master's degrees who are still making $70,000 at Aetna. So because they're in middle management, and there's like 1,000 of them. They're all boxed in there competing for that one spot in upper management. But there's a lot of room for promotion. And we also have an initiative, and I want to put this out there. We have an initiative called 30 by 30, in which by 2030, we like to have 30% of our workforce to be women. You know, we're really, the direction of law enforcement is changing. It's not your grandfather, your father's old police department. I mean, and one of the things that we talked about, and I see that Connecticut has passed, is our Police Accountability Act. A lot of these things were enacted after the unfortunate and the tragic incident that happened with George Floyd. So here in Hartford, and I like to say even here myself, we've always been accountable. So, you know, and it doesn't take a law. It shouldn't take a law, and it doesn't. For most officers, it doesn't take a law for you to do the right thing. However, you know, you always get a few bad apples. And what had happened in the past is that they weren't weeded out. Well, they're getting weeded out. Right. And I don't want you here. If you think that's the type of law enforcement officer you want to be, don't come to Hartford. I want you coming here, people who want to serve this community, who want to do the right thing, help make the city of Hartford grow. When we say public safety, it's safety for everyone, the citizens and the residents first and foremost, but any and everyone who comes to our beautiful city to take advantage of all the wonderful things that we have to offer. I mean, if you go up and down Park Street, I mean, the smells of the restaurants, just incredible. You go down Albany Avenue and North Main Street, the civic organizations and the architect of some of the old buildings there, it's just wonderful. We look at our cultural. We have our Wadsworth Athenaeum, one of the best museums in the not just in the city, in the state, but in the country. We have our most latest and greatest thing, our minor league baseball team. You know, listen, even if you don't like baseball, it's a great place to take your family. It's affordable. Come down to our Hartford Civic Center, see a concert. Summertime. I mean, we're booked in the Meadows. There's a concert there every weekend. There are many, many things to do, and come into the city and enjoy the city. And we want to be here to serve anybody who comes into our city and want to partake in these things. So that's what being an officer is all about. Giving back, of course, you know, but it's not a requirement. But if it's on your heart, if it's in your personality, go out and do it. And I think a lot of officers here, we do so many things that, you know, if you wanted the publicity and you're like, hey, I just did this, you're in the wrong job. But there's so many things that we do for this community that most people never even know unless you're that person being affected by our service. You know, so, you know, and unfortunately, and I tell officers, new officers, when you come into the city and you're working with individuals, remember, a lot of times you're meeting people for the first time at their worst moment in their life. So be empathetic to that. Don't look at them and say, hey, you're terrible. No, I'm having a bad day. We're having a bad situation. How can I help?
If people, how can people get in touch with you?
Well, Stan, they can call me at 860-757-4338. That's my direct extension. My office number that goes to our general office line in recruitment is 860-757-4242. We also can be reached at, you can follow us on Instagram at Hartford CT Police _ recruitment. That's Hartford CT Police _ recruitment. Everything we do in recruitment or in career development, we post on our Instagram page. We post it out there because we want people to be aware, and we're constantly updating that. Sometimes when it's raining out or we're expecting very, very bad weather, we may move the physical agility training indoors or maybe have to cancel it for that day. So if you follow us on Instagram, you'll always see the updates. The Lieutenant Marisol Rodriguez-Velez, wonderful woman. She's often doing Instagram Live. She'll post it that's coming up, and you can watch it. You can call in, or how the whole social media thing works, and get your questions answered. We like to have that include with various members of the department from different divisions. We have so many different opportunities. If you like the CSI on TV, we got that division. If you want to ride on boats, we got that division. So come on down. We need you. 860-757-4242 or 860-757-4338. The application is open to January 10th, 2023. Get it in there. Go to policeapp.com. That's where you sign up at. Policeapp.com.
Police.
That's an online.
Policeapp.com.
Yes. City of Hartford. Click on the toolbox. City of Hartford entry-level police officer. Get those applications in. And we're also taking laterals. So if you're in the state and you want to work here, and you want to come to a challenging city that you're going to never a boring moment, plenty of room for promotion and upward mobility, a lot of different divisions, Hartford is the place to be. If you want to come from an outside agency in terms of another state, we're taking comparables. So if you have experience and you work in New York City or you work in Boston and you want to come to a different city, you want to come to Connecticut for the great schools, you want to come to Hartford for whatever reason, we're here for you. 860-757-4338, policeapp.com. Click on City of Hartford entry-level police officer. Let's get started with your new career.
All right. Well, my friends, you hear the music in the background. Now, those of you out there, you clergy folk, you community organizer folk, you folk out there call yourself so-called leaders, I know you know somebody who would make a great police officer. Why don't you please be the difference, be the change you want to see Hartford be, and, encourage folks to become police officers. Don't discourage, encourage. All right. We're running out of time, like real quick. One more time. What's the number?
860-757-4242 or 860-757-4338, policeapp.com, City of Hartford entry-level police officers. Go online, get started in your new career. We'd love to have you.
All right.
Could I say something?
Yep, quickly.
Boy, do I live in that city? I want to go to that city that you were just talking about. It's wonderful.
Hartford is wonderful, Cleo.
He just energized. I just have so much energy. I'm saying, who should I get to be a policeman? Who should I go to?
Yes.
I said, do I live in that city he's talking about?
Well, listen.
Yeah.
You know someone who would make a great police officer, Cleo. So my challenge to everybody out there is to find someone and encourage them to go and apply. There's nothing lost from applying. All right, so encourage somebody to become a police officer in the greatest city on earth. Hartford, Connecticut, New England's largest city. Sergeant Austin,
thank you, Stan, for having me.
Thanks for coming by. Thanks for coming by. Cleo, always good to see you. We'll see you next Friday.
You see me next Friday.
Okay.
On time.
All right. All right, my friends. We'll see you soon. Share the program with family, friends, and foe. Keep them in the know. We'll see you all next time. You all have a great rest of your day. Goodbye now.
name is J. Stan McCauley, and I do business as Light Source Productions. I provide professional services in the area of strategic video communications. First, what we do is we help you craft your message using what I call the rule of the 5 W's: who, what, when, where, and why. We do event documentation, content acquisition, full-scale productions, editing, and of course distribution through our social media television network. And with social media, video is more important now than it has ever been. Whether you're talking big business, small business, nonprofit, church, or just an individual. Let's say you plan you're planning an event, a wedding, whatever the case may be, but let's say a big event, but no video. And you spent all this time, all these hours to put this event on, and maybe 100, 200 people attend the event. But more important than that is that thousands could attend by watching it on social media. But of course, you don't think about this until after the event is over. You can't afford not to capture it for social media. And despite what people think, I am affordable. Give me a call. Let's plan your next video project and share it with the world on my social media television network. I promise you that you will have the attention of one person, me.